Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Many thanks to also, of course, to all the members of our community who will join later on or will watch video of this stream afterwards. Today is 6th of June. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and because I didn't receive no question or the comment through support platforms, PayPal, Boosty, that I can highlight after new segment. I will make new segment, and if there will be any super chat on Rumble during the stream, I will react on it. If not, then I will end the stream on that. And so, without further delay, let's go through some news. Today I'm a little short on time, so I will try to make this stream as short as possible. So, well, first of all, I'll give you this news that, according to RIA Novosti and many other media outlets, air defense systems on duty intercepted 174 Ukrainian drones that were launched to strike deep into Russian territory by Kyiv regime, obviously with assistance of NATO member states. Drones were intercepted over Bryansk, Rostov, Saratov, Voronezh, Kaluga, Kursk, Orlovsk, Ryazan, Tula, Belgorod, Tambov, Moscow regions, and also over the Crimean Peninsula. So quite a large-scale attack on Russia by NATO and NATO proxy Kyiv regime. Unfortunately, some of the drones did manage to bypass air defense systems. It seems like, although this is not official information, but based on reports on some Telegram channels, unfortunately, there were some strikes on a number of directions. For example, in angles, according to reports that I see, some manufacturing plant was hit. Reports are coming in about strikes on some energy infrastructure. Probably later on we will learn some more about this quite large-scale attack of NATO on Russia, and of course I will share additional information on my Telegram and Twitter X page. But it's not just the Kyiv regime, but Russian armed forces also conducted a quite large-scale strike on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, and explosions were heard all over the Kyiv controlled territory, including inside the Kyiv itself. At this point, we don't really have much detailed information about what exactly was targeted or how effectively, but based on reports that I see on different channels, different sources on Telegram and other platforms, explosions were heard just about everywhere in the western parts of Ukraine, in the Lvov area, for example, and also in the south, in Odessa region, in the north, Kharkov, for example, Chernigov. So it was a quite a large-scale Russian strike on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, and there are some members of our community may ask question: is this a retaliatory strike of Russia for a recent attack by NATO on Russian nuclear triad, by NATO and NATO proxy Kyiv regime on Russian nuclear triad? And my answer would be yes and no, because I think these strikes, these Russian strikes, can be beginning of the series of steps that Russia will take as a response, as a retaliation for attacks on Russian nuclear triad. So therefore, more strikes to be expected on Kyiv-controlled territory, I think. And once investigation is concluded and the Russian side will, Russian leadership will have final answers, I think some concrete steps will be taken against countries, against NATO member states that were behind those attacks on Russian nuclear triad. And we know which countries I'm talking about, right? It's UK and US. First of all, it's UK and US, because no one in this world believes that Kyiv regime pull off that attack without any assistance from the NATO. Probably vast majority of our community is on the same page with me on that. And I think Russian leadership already has enough information to have preliminary conclusions, let's say, because, for example, Russian representative in UN, Polyansky, during the interview with RT, made a statement that clearly visible that Western intel services, particularly British, were involved in Zelensky's terror attacks on Russia. So this is said by high-ranking Russian official, representative deputy of the permanent representative of Russian Federation in UN. And I think we can take this statement from Polyansky as Moscow's stance right now. So once investigation will come up with the final conclusions, obviously we should expect certain steps to be taken by Moscow in regards to whichever countries from NATO were behind these attacks. Still, I don't think Moscow will authorize direct strikes on either US military assets or the British military assets if investigation will conclude that these countries were behind this attack on Russian nuclear triad. But as I said, plausible deniability that US and London, Washington and London can exercise now while saying that they were not informed, they didn't knew nothing. Well, this plausible deniability can be played by both sides. So I think Russia will obviously retaliate, but while maintaining plausible deniability. So it's anybody's guess what this retaliation is going to be and when and on what scale. But scale will be significant enough because attack on Russian nuclear triad was very significant, right? It's the first time when basically, it's first time since the Second World War, one may argue, when nuclear countries, US and UK, attacked another nuclear country through third party, but still. So obviously, one way or another, but Russia will take some actions while maintaining plausible deniability. But first, obviously, I'm 100% sure about it, that Moscow will wait for the conclusions of the investigation. And in upcoming days, probably we will have that conclusion. To continue, dear friends, RT is reporting, and other media outlets also here in Russia, that Moscow bans British consuls. So the Russian Prosecutor General's office has banned the British consul from operating in the country, accusing it of spreading LGBTQ propaganda and undermining Russia's domestic and foreign policy. And according to some reports that I see, British consul was also engaged in intelligence operations. They were recruiting, yet again, according to some reports that I see, they were engaged in recruiting of assets for British intelligence. And it is unfortunate that this criminal organization, British Council, was banned just now, not years ago, but only now. Anyways, it's better to do now than never, right? So probably some additional threats from London will be avoided as a result of this decision. Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that Kremlin assures of the inevitability of the response to Ukraine's airfield strikes. As I already said, the Kremlin indicated that the decision on the time and the method of Russia's response to the strikes on airfields, strategical airfields on Russian nuclear triad that happened a couple of days ago, will be made by the military command, taking into account their situation. Russia will respond to Kiev's attack on airfields within the time frame and the manner that the military deem appropriate. This is Peskov's statement. And Peskov is, of course, press spokesman of the Russian president. And as I said, by the way, I personally have no doubts that Moscow will retaliate. But when it comes to Kiev regime, this retaliation will be publicly acknowledged. When it comes to retaliation against potentially other countries, let's say UK and US, for example, potentially France and Germany too, who knows. Retaliation against other countries that potentially were involved in these attacks on Russian nuclear triad will be conducted in a way that Moscow will maintain plausible deniability, as Washington and London did while attacking Russian airfields. If anybody thinks that Moscow will just ignore that attack and continue as if nothing happened, then it's just not possible. Russian nuclear deterrent was targeted, was hit, and this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and obviously retaliation will be also big. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that, according to media reports, Malian military accuses Ukrainian Defense Ministry's main intelligence directorate of supporting a terrorist. Yet another accusation of Kyiv regime of terrorist activity, this time from African nations. Our main intelligence directorate of the Ukraine's Defense Ministry is involved in a training and supporting terrorists in Mali, Faso and Bamada. Right, citing a military investigation, and we knew it for quite a while now, isn't it? That France, especially France, by the way, is using France and also London quite actively using assets, their assets from Ukraine to arm and train their terrorists, all sorts of terrorist groups in African nations, in African countries, and unfortunately, until Kyiv regime is not eliminated completely, which is definitely going to happen, well, they will continue to be engaged in a training and their weapons delivery and munition delivery to all these terrorist groups under supervision of French and British military intelligence. US also, of course, US CIA, oversees all these operations. They all are engaged in this terrorist activity together. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Poland establishes Day of Remembrance for victims of the genocide conducted by Ukrainian Nazis, own and UPA, Ukrainian Nazi organizations. And the Kyiv regime was outraged because of this decision of Polish parliament. But, well, maybe surprisingly for some, especially in the West, that only takes information from Western propaganda. Warsaw is finally forced, I guess, by public to acknowledge that Ukrainian Nazism is an issue, and a big issue, and was an issue for quite a long time. Even during the Second World War, when Ukrainian Nazis, according to reports, killed more than 100,000 Poles. Some reports suggest even 200,000 Poles. And also Jews, by the way, Russians, and all the other ethnic groups, while cooperating with Nazi Germany. Let's go for details here. The Polish Sejm has established a new state holiday, Day of Remembrance of Poles, victims of the genocide committed by OU and UPA, Ukrainian Nazi organizations, in the eastern lands of the Second Polish Republic. The official Sejm account on the social network Facebook states, we have a quote from this statement: the Sejm has established a new state holiday, July 11th. July 11th will become the National Day of Remembrance of Poles who were victims of the genocide committed by Ukrainian Nazis in the eastern lands of Second Polish Republics. It is also explained that in 1939-1946, Ukrainian nationalists from the organizations of Ukrainian Nazi groups, Ukrainian Insurgent Army, and Ukrainian nationalist formation formations operating in their terrorist territories of their eastern borders of their Second Polish Republic, Volyn, Ternopil, Stanislav, Lvov, Police, voivodeships, as well as the current Lublin and Subcarpathian voivodeships, committed the crime of genocide against the Poles. Sorry, dear friends, I butchered Polish pronunciation of these areas. But yes, this is Warsaw, by the way. This is not Moscow is saying. This is Warsaw is saying that, well, they will now on July 11th remember people that were massacred by Ukrainian Nazis from 1939 to 1946. And this information most likely becomes as a sort of surprise for people in the Western world, if they will even hear this news from the Western MSN, right? Because probably they've been told all these years that this topic of Ukrainian Nazism and the fascism is just a false narrative that was created by Moscow. I mean, really? Tell about it, Polish people that remember and knows perfectly well what Ukrainian Nazis were doing to Poles also. RT meanwhile is reporting that, well, Ukraine has gone over budget for its military. According to finance minister, Ukraine does not have enough money to fund its military and will have to overhaul this year's budget in order to close the gap. Finance minister Sergei Marchenko has admitted the shortfall had previously been estimated at around 10-12 billion US dollars. And you guessed who's gonna finance, who's gonna pay this bill, by the way. It's taxpayers from US and taxpayers from European countries, isn't it? They will pay this bill, by the way. Another 10 to 12 billion dollars. No questions asked, because no one will ask question, right? Did we ever see either in US or in Europe or any other collective Western country, be in Australia or New Zealand, for example, did ever there was any large-scale demonstrations with demands that taxpayers' money should be kept in the country and invested inside the country? No, it never happened. Small groups of informed people, small minority, yes, tries to be active and to wake their public, but unfortunately they are failing big time. So therefore, no doubts about. No doubts in my mind that collective Western and Western elites will finance Kiev regime's defense ministry. To continue, dear friends, it's not just militaries that Kiev regime is unable to fund, but, well, they cannot service their debt, right? And so Ukraine's credit rating was downgraded to a D for default. So S&P Global dumps its rating on the GDP-linked securities after Zelensky failed to make a June $665 million payment. Kiev admits it can't pay, asks for debt restructuring. And yet again, who's going to pay this money, by the way? Of course, taxpayers of the collective West countries. Right? Because Zelensky not going to pay for nothing, right? And when taxpayers of European countries and US or Canada or New Zealand, Australia will send their billions hard-earned money paid as a taxes, when this money will be sent to Kiev regime, obviously, Zelensky will have an opportunity to buy some more mansions, by the way. Yesterday, I reported on my Telegram and Twitter X page that he brought to his mom $3.2 million apartment, I believe, in the Burj Khalifa in Dubai on a birthday, 74th birthday that was in 2024. So who paid for that? Yet again, taxpayers of European countries and countries from collective West. So yes, man. While this whole tragedy continues, that was provoked by Western ruling class globalists. Well, these elements, these type of elements, like Zelensky and their so-called elites in the West, also military-industrial complex, they are getting richer and richer. By the way, filthy rich, right? On expense of yet again Western taxpayers. And obviously, dear friends, today and since the yesterday evening, basically, one of the main topics of discussion worldwide is the civil war that broke in US inside the Republican community, let's say, and everything has started when Musk and Trump went after each other big time. They have had some very strong words to say about each other. And well, at one point, Elon Musk dropped a bomb, basically bombshell, stating that Trump is in Epstein's files. So Elon Musk has publicly claimed that U.S. President Donald Trump is named in a sealed Jeffrey Epstein files and suggested that this is the real reason they remain classified. And by the way, this is a strike after which I don't think anybody can recover. So Republican community, traditionalist community in US, just ordinary people, by the way, normal people that want normality, they will struggle big time now to continue support for Trump. They are already, many of them already were disappointed because they were electing Trump on a basis of his promise that he's going to be peace president, but they didn't see no even attempts, right? No real attempts to achieve peace. It's exactly the opposite that is happening. Although upfront they talk about peace here and peace there constantly, but did he stop weapon supplies to Kyiv regime? No. Did he stop intelligence supplies to Kyiv regime? No. And by the way, he even went to authorize strike on Russian nuclear triad, because never ever I will believe that Trump was not informed about this attack that was organized by CIA, US CIA and British MI6 on Russian nuclear triad while using Kyiv regime as their proxy. I will never believe that US and UK's leadership were not informed about it and they did not personally authorize these attacks. So obviously people in US, people that supported their Republican candidate, Trump, many of them are very much disappointed. And now this shell from Musk, well, I don't know, man. I don't know. Trump cannot recover. If he was and if he is on Epstein files, and I have no reason to dismiss statement of Musk, then that explains quite a lot. Not just classifications of Epstein files, but that will explain why Israeli lobby and Zionists, for example, give hundreds of millions of dollars to Trump, because they knew that Trump was on their hook, right? And he will do whatever he is asked to. And because obviously Epstein was a Mossad asset, right? It was a Mossad's operation, by the way. Mossad is Israeli Secret Service, right? So some really big developments are happening in US when it comes to internal politics, and well, let's see if Trump will manage to brush off this allegation. But it's a big one. If he's on those files, then I mean, he cannot be respected as a human ever again, right? It is what it is, and as I said, I have no reason to doubt Musk's statement. He knew what he was saying. It is what it is. Share your opinion, dear friends. But I mean, Trump should be in jail. If he is on Epstein's files, then he and everyone else who is on those files, all of them should be in prison for life. And if you ask me, I will say pedophiles should be executed. I think penalty for pedophiles should be death. For other type of absolutely despicable criminals also, but for pedophiles too. In my personal opinion, penalty should be death sentence. And I think vast majority of humanity will support me on that. Probably will share the same take. So something big is happening in US, and who knows? Musk even called for impeachment of Trump, and maybe he is going to be impeached. By the way, a public spot broke out on social media between US President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk. The head of the White House threatened to deprive the head of Tesla of government subsidies, and Musk responded by calling for the impeachment of the American leader and his replacement by Vice President J.D. Vance. The main details, I already spoke about some details of this feud between the two. A few key points also. Last week, Musk stepped down as a head of U.S. Department of Government Effectiveness, the GE, but promised to continue to be a friend and advisor to the president. Well, this promise didn't last for long, isn't it? Already this week, the head of Tesla harshly criticized the large-scale budget project prompted by the American leader, calling it an abomination. Document reduces federal spending, but at the same time provides significant tax breaks. Musk believes that the bill will level out the results of his work and in the public sector and will lead to an increase in the U.S. budget deficit, and he has a point on that for sure. Trump even asking, if I remember correctly, I read there on one of the papers that Trump is also, and his administration is also asking debt ceiling to be removed completely. Not just to be increased, but to be removed completely so that Washington can print dollars as much as they want. And eventually, obviously, that will collapse dollar, that will devaluate dollar in immense manner at some point, right? And that will be strike on U.S. economy that this country might have never experienced, not even during the Great Depression. Few more key points from this feud between the Trump and Musk. Trump commented on the publication on his Truth Social. Elon was running out of steam. I asked him to leave, took away his electric car license that was forcing everyone to buy electric cars that no one wanted anymore. He'd known I was going to do that for a month, and he just went nuts. Trump said he just went crazy, I believe. That's exactly how he said. At the same time, according to American leader, he's not worried about the attacks from the businessmen. Musk, after the U.S. President's proposal to cancel subsidies, announced that his private company SpaceX would immediately begin decommissioning the Dragon spacecraft. And I remind you, dear friend, this is a big deal because currently, I believe it's only SpaceX that provides U.S. with their capabilities of send their astronauts into International Space Station. Without SpaceX, then NASA have to rely on Russian Roscosmos again, as it was for many years before SpaceX built its Dragon spacecraft, right? So it's a big deal, and there are some people in US, some public figures already are calling for Trump to basically send the military and overtook SpaceX and even Tesla, by the way. I mean, some crazy stuff, isn't it? In addition, he advocated, Musk advocated impeaching Trump, and I already said, proposed replacing him with J.D. Vance, and who knows, dear friends, maybe most importantly, I mean, Musk dropped a bombshell while saying that Trump is in Epstein's list. That's the biggest revelation, right? From which recovery is impossible. No, if Trump is on that list, then he should be not just impeached, but he should be put in jail, by the way, for life, at least. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that, well, enough of this feud between Trump and Musk, but Musk did lost quite money as a result of this feud. He personally lost over 30 billion as a result of plummeting shares of his companies, and their Tesla also lost over 100 billion, I believe, up to 150 billion, according to some reports. So this feud with Trump is very costly for Elon Musk, but it is costly for Trump also. I mean, level of money that these two have is very different. Obviously, Musk is richest man on the planet. Trump is not, but Trump also lost about billion, according to some report, as a result of this feud. Our team, meanwhile, is reporting that U.S. sanctions International Criminal Court judges. United States has announced sanctions on 4 International Criminal Court judges over what it describes as illegitimate and baseless actions against the U.S. and Israel. No surprises there. U.S. was promising that they will target judges for personnel, basically, of ICC, who was involved in issuing arrest warrant on Netanyahu and a number of other war criminals in Israel. And they act on their promise, right? And well, what can I say about it? I have no sympathy for ICC. This organization is discredited big time because they issued an arrest warrant on Russian president, by the way, and Russian child's ombudsman. And they issued arrest warrant because Russian government evacuated kids from a zone of hostilities, right? Majority of whom were from orphanages. So what should Russian militaries do, by the way, when they see there is an orphanage and there are kids, right, left alone? Should they leave him there to be under risk of some shell striking the building and that kind of stuff? Of course, Russian militaries could not do this, so they evacuated kids. And those kids are now safe, right, and alive. And for saving the lives of these kids, by the way, ICC issued the arrest warrant on the Russian president and their ombudsman, which is a crime, by the way, crime beyond any limits, I think, and therefore I have no sympathy for ICC. Let US completely demolish this criminal organization that ICC really is, right? That's my take on that, by the way. If they wanted any support, they should be objective, but they crossed the lines so much so that at this point, hardly anybody considers ICC to be really, objective institution. No, man. Also, there was a phone conversation, by the way, between Trump and Xi Jinping yesterday. I was reporting in previous days that Trump was very keen to have a phone conversation with Xi Jinping. Probably he was thinking that he's gonna influence opinion of Xi Jinping and his policies, which is crazy to think. But Trump demonstrated quite a number of times that he is not necessarily here, somewhere else. His mental state is questionable for sure, and his morality, obviously, especially after Musk's statement that he is on Epstein's list. And well, there was a phone conversation, and that's all we know. Basically, there was a phone call between Trump and the Chinese leader Xi, and that's about it. It will go nowhere. It will go nowhere. U.S. is in no position to basically bully China, right? And Xi Jinping have no incentive, by the way, to compromise on anything really before U.S. right? So it is what it is, and that's all, dear friends. All news that I have for this relatively short news segment. It's 35 minutes only. Okay. Was there any Anne? There was no questions on the super chat, but okay, just a minute, dear friends. There was no question on the super chat, but was Predrag Kraguji. Thank you very much for your donation through Rumble. PayPal. This is PayPal. Sorry. Thank you very much for your donation on the PayPal. Comment is thanks for the news. Thank you. Thank you for support. Truly appreciated. And dear friends, this is it for today's live stream. As I said in the beginning, I'm a bit short on time today. So, okay, I will end live stream now. Thank you all for your attention and support. Have a wonderful day, great upcoming weekend. And before I go, dear friends, let me notice that tomorrow I'll take day off. And if there is no some major developments, I will just try to stay away from the news as much as I can. And day after tomorrow, on Sunday, about 1500 hours or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I will launch live stream, which is going to be not just news segment, but also community chat. Many members of our community like this program on Sundays. So hopefully many members will join. So yes, this is it for now. Have a wonderful day. Take care and see you on Sunday.